Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to talk about the dire state of our American farm economy and our farmers. American farmers and producers are the backbone of our nation's agriculture economy and food security. Despite their critical role in our lives to feed, clothe, and fuel not only the United States, but the entire world, our farmers are struggling to survive, and that's an understatement. The current state of agriculture economy is bleak and on the verge of collapse. We have problems all over the world. We have problems in our country. There's nothing more important that we should be addressing than our food supply here in this country. Costs for farmers are rising. Commodity prices are falling. Our farmers cannot break even, much less make a profit. According to the USDA, net farm income this year is projected to decline 4.4% from 2023. Decline. That is a disaster. This follows a shocking, listen to this, a shocking 9.5% decline in 2022. Not one business in this country can survive with this kind of decline. And our farmers and our farms are no different. This means producers' income has plummeted 23% in just 2 years. 23%. These figures represent only over $40 billion in lost revenue for America's hardworking producers. This is the largest 2-year decline ever in our farm income, ever, history of this country. Right now, our row croppers especially are facing considerable financial hardship. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, row croppers had a $27.7 billion decline in cash receipts since last year. In Alabama, my state, our producers are yielding bumper crops of cotton, peanuts, corn, soybeans, and yet they can't profit due to rising cost of production. Our catfish producers are in the same boat. Rising input costs and falling fish prices are threatening to put them out of business. A multitude of factors that producers have no control over are impacting their bottom lines. And I want to talk about one of them. This world-saving Inflation Reduction Act that we passed a few years ago was supposed to save our economy, supposed to save a lot of workers. You know what it's done to our farmers? It's almost put us out of business. The Inflation Reduction Act started a tax credit for imports and exports. Unfortunately, all the tax credits are going to people and countries and farmers from overseas, Brazil and China. It's supposed to go to our farmers, but no, it's not going to do that. For some reason, this administration has given all the tax credits to the farmers from other countries, and our farmers are struggling. The Biden administration has total control over our farm economy. But you hadn't heard a peep out of them, not one peep about our farmers. And this is a disastrous year coming up. And right now, we are harvesting our crops, and they're bumper crops. The issues plaguing American producers are directly linked to the harmful policies, as I just said, from the Biden-Harris administration. This includes the lack of domestic energy production, skyrocketing inflation, which comes from the Inflation Reduction Act, and endless environmental hurdles. Now, let me say something about conservation and all the things that happen in our environment. There's nobody, and I mean nobody, on the face of the earth that takes care and more conscious of environmental problems than our farmers, because they make a living off our land. but we're putting so many regulations on them. We're closing our farms down and running them overseas, and we're going to have a national security threat because all of our food is going to come from foreign countries. Farmers are experiencing rising high cost of labor, increase price of feeds, fertilizer, and pesticides. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. America's agricultural producers are facing a very tough road ahead. And it's something nobody, the media, this building, the building on the other hand, my House of Representatives, nobody's even talking about. But folks, if we can't eat, if we don't have food to eat, we're done. Many farmers fear that their farm loans this year will not be renewed. They have to have farm loans to put a crop in the ground. They fear cash flows drying up and interest rates continuing to rise, create an uncertain future for farming operations. Although Congress only has a few legislative days left to act, we must stop adding fuel to the Biden-Harris administrative fire. We got to quit adding fuel. We've got to help the farmers. We need to pass a farm bill that helps our farmers. Democrats are in control of that. They've been in control of it for the last 8 years. A farm bill is for 5 years. 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, the farm bill was $870 billion for a 5-year period. It runs at a 5-year period. So this past year, we're supposed to be working on a farm bill. I'm on the Ag Committee. We go by the control of the Democratic Party. Our Democratic chairwoman has decided we won't do a farm bill this year. We're just throwing farmers underneath the bus. They need help. You would think, by looking at everything going on, that my colleagues on the left would rather our food come from other countries. Take over our farmland, control it, and do something else with it. Producers need a strong safety net. We've got to have a safety net for our farmers. Considering no farmer risks are the same, we cannot take a one-size-fits-all approach. Remember, we have a farm bill that covers livestock, hogs, row croppers, forest, fish. There's a lot of things involved. Farmers across the country have fluctuating levels of risk impacted by land and equipment cost, access to irrigation, and variable input requirements. Southern row croppers rely heavily upon Title I commodity programs in the Farm Bill, particularly the Price Loss Program and the Agricultural Risk Program. Yet Midwest producers heavily utilize crop insurance. Where there may be an overlap across regions among these programs, we must fix the entire farmer safety net, not just parts of it. Take the reference prices in commodity programs, for example. Reference prices are how much prices are and their commodity sales for. Our farmers operating and are today operating on 2012 reference prices. 2012, 14 years later. But cost of production are 22 to 31% higher today than they were at that time, a decade ago, making current reference prices completely inadequate for our farmers. We don't have time to waste. Our farmers are facing an uphill battle to remain in business. And we're going to find out pretty quick, the American people going to the grocery store are going to find out pretty quick what it is to be hungry if we don't wake up and smell the roses. Even if a farm bill is passed today, producers wouldn't receive any commodity program support from this farm bill until 2026. Game, set, match before 2026 for our farmers in this country. That's help our farmers need now to survive, not 2 years late. Senate Republicans stand ready to act on a solid bipartisan bill the House Agriculture Committee passed earlier this year. Yet, Senate Democrats and the Biden administration refused to come to the table to find practical bipartisan solutions to the many problems our farmers are facing today. Let's don't worry about our farmers. Let's worry about Ukraine. Let's worry about people overseas. the 800 bases we have around the world. Let's don't worry about eating. We can do without eating. That's what this administration's saying. This forces us to look to supplemental appropriation packages to help our producers if we're not going to do a farm bill, renew their farm loans, and plan for next year's crops. If they don't get help this year, we're going to have huge problems. They won't be pocketing this money. If we come up with some money to help the farmers get a loan, they'll just be planting another crop. Without immediate action to assist producers, our nation's agriculture industry may never, ever make it back from the damage that we're doing to them today. America has lost, listen to this, America has lost 150,000 farms and 25,000 farmers in our country over the last few years. What? 150,000 farms closed up. Why? They can't make a profit. You've owned a farm for 100 years, you and your family. But you get to the point where you say, you know, I'm not passing something down to our kids that really want a farm, but we're not going to put them in harm's way. We're going to sell, we're going to get out of the business, and we're going to let somebody else worry about it. Let's let the federal government worry about it. Well, we do such a good job here. We do a great job of raising our food. We can't afford any more losses to our farms. Our farmers are hurting. They're hurting real bad. But have you heard anybody talk about it? No. You're going to hear a lot of people complaining about it, and there's going to be an uproar in the next few years when prices double and triple as what they are today, because we're not going to have any food. And it's going to come from Brazil, it's going to come from China, it's going to come from Vietnam. We are doing severe damage to the farmers across this country, and nobody cares. I'll continue to be the voice of our southern agriculture producers in the Senate and ensure that we have a seat at the table on this farm bill upcoming. But as I just said a while ago, if we do a farm bill today, we're going to lose at least half of our farmers in this country this year, if they don't get some help. Mr. President, I yield the floor.